are listening to Electric Blue. Hello everyone. On today's episode, I have a conversation with good friend of mine, Chris Chidi, fashion stylist and editor extraordinaire. We cover a lot of interesting topics ranging from her very intuitive journey of getting into styling, how as a preteen she moved from the Valley in LA to Lagos, Nigeria, and also the notion of how you protect your freedom as an artist when it finally becomes your career. There's so many gems in this conversation, and I had so many epiphanies happen to me while listening to Chris. I hope the same happens for you. Enjoy. Thank you for being here, Chris.
Thanks for
You look
having
amazing.
me. I try.
Looking back at young Chris, like, what was the moment that clothing felt like something more to you? You know, like, was there a...
That's a good question.
Can you trace back the moment where you're like, wait, like, I really
like love clothes.
love this?
That's so interesting because I do think a lot about how I started getting into styling, but I don't often think about how I first liked fashion, you know, capital F. Because I was for a long time, I had wanted to be a doctor at one point. Yeah, it was like a whole different journey for me. I thought I was going to be, there was a time I very, like, for a short brief period wanted to be a chemical engineer. I don't know who that person was. Random. And I was like, sure, it's psychology. You know, just like in that like searching phase of your life. This was probably like pre-teens at this point. But then when I decided I wanted to be a doctor, I mean, a lot of Nigerians will tell you it's like doctor, lawyer, engineer. Like, that's like a lot of what your parents are pushing.
Right.
So I think at one point I was like, oh, I think I like this. Like, sure. Like, maybe let me explore that. And I actually got the opportunity to intern at a very early age. And that kind of made me realize, like, oh, actually, I don't want to do this. But that's more of when I think about how I realize, oh, I might not want to do this thing, but I don't fully know what it is that I want to do. But as far as the first time I actually thought I really liked fashion, I remember my mom would just bring a lot of magazines. Like, that was her thing. She was also a personal shopper, an image consultant. That's her background. So I grew up watching her do it. And honestly, I feel really ashamed about this sometimes, but I always thought there was something frankly, just superficial about it, where I was just like, oh, I don't want to be associated with this thing. I want to be associated for my mind. Like, I really wanted to do and that is not to say, like, especially now being a stylist, I know that there is a lot of thought that goes into it, but it does feel to some degree like the right brain, left brain thing, where I do think when I was seeking the sciences and I was seeking it in one way, I was actually thinking like, oh, I think I want to process things in this way and I want to be taken seriously in this way. And that in some way made me feel like I was looking down on this thing my mom was doing that at the time I was like, oh, well, it doesn't require certain, you know, faculties or whatever to do. And people have said that about, you know, what I do now. And it's like, you don't actually know if you could do what I do. Like, there is a lot of thought and it just might be a different level, right? And so I think when I look back and I remember watching her do what she did, I was always fascinated by it. I thought it was cool, but I never was thinking about it in relation to how I felt about fashion. It was always like, oh, like, I like doing this thing with my mom. It's cool to see her work. But when I was by myself, it was like I was just I was first looking at the magazines and reading a lot of the stories. Like, I actually really loved this is going to sound so funny. I used to love the old Anthropology catalogs. Anthropology. Like, they used to have these incredible shoots. I mean, the budget, I don't know what the budget was, but the budget was probably giving. They were doing these international shoots, like Morocco, you know, Spain, like parts of Asia, like truly, like, going across the globe. And it would just be like their catalog. And I was like, oh, and they would have these for free. Like, when you would just like go into their... And then online, eventually got to be online. But I was reading those randomly because my mom was bringing them. And then like Harper's Bazaar and Vogue and all these different magazines. And I definitely had that experience of like, oh, I'm not as pretty as these. Like, of course I've had versions of those experiences. But I was so much more fascinated actually on the words. Like, for a long time, I also had a very secret, and I still kind of do, but writing is a sort of secret passion of mine that I don't engage with in a public way. I don't engage with it professionally at all, actually. But in college, I wrote a lot of poetry, and I never wanted to be like I never wanted to be like a working poet or working writer. I never really wanted to be a working writer, and I don't fully know why. It's probably fear about being perceived a certain way. But with fashion, it was this thing I did just at home. Like I was like cutting these magazines up and like creating these collages and like draw. Like there was this old fairy tale book I had from like childhood that I would like draw and like trace out the dresses, and it never made me think, oh, I want to do design or I want to do like anything related to fashion. I just was doing it. And then I want to say like preteens period, when I was still kind of like thinking I wanted to be a doctor, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I just started getting into that part of your life where you really do start thinking how people see me. I feel it now. I feel a response to how people see me, and I want to be seen a certain way. Ooh. And I think also because I went to a uniform school, I went to like private schools for a long time, and they required uniforms, and I hated the restriction. And I loved when I wasn't at school, just the little bits of clothes that I had, being able to use them in a certain way and to like try and create a persona of like who I wanted to be, even though I would look at these women in these magazines and be like, you definitely don't look like that, and you definitely don't have the money to buy that, and feeling very overwhelmed by those parts, but being like transported to a different place and being like, whoa, like what must it be like to dress in this way? The boho. So I remember I got really into the feeling of boho, like dresses and like scarves. Like maybe my mom gave me an old scarf of hers and I was like, oh, like, but then I would go back to school and I would have to wear a certain, outfit. Okay. And it's like later I looked back when I don't know, like college. So this would probably be like a decade later that I eventually got into styling. It's just funny. I look back at those times. I'm like, oh, there was probably an awareness of knowing how important it was for you to be seen a certain way, and not realizing later that you actually wanted to have a control in that process. And you actually like, I feel it feels very natural to me. Like it feels natural to me to want to put together pieces that make me like even just form a certain image. It might not even be a static one, right? It's like sometimes I would say like, oh, okay, I want to feel like this today. I want to feel like a sort of carefreeness. I'm thinking of a color of like a light blue. And so I would use that as like a base of how that color makes me feel.
As a preteen.
As a kid. And I didn't always have the pieces. It was always like, I would be like, damn, like I wish I had that. And I'd make a little list of when I would go from Nigeria, when I was still living there, back to LA for the summer. I was like, okay, I need to get these things on my list. I'd maybe like get like 2 of them, but I would be like, I need to find the link of what will help me feel like this thing so I can incorporate it into this look. And I just remember thinking a lot about how I was dressing, even though I wasn't allowed to dress pretty much ever because I was wearing uniforms. So it's just funny. I'm like, that's probably when it started. It was just maybe 11, I guess, right before we moved to Nigeria. I would say that was like when I started to be like, okay, no, I would say Nigeria. I would say 12 because I was already going to a uniform school in LA, like in the Valley, but I wouldn't say I thought a lot about how I looked. I think it was more like, I think I just had that typical about like, we're wearing Uggs and you're wearing the socks and you like fold your skirt. And I was just like, oh, that's what all the people are doing. And then I remember leaving Nigeria, having a sort of awakening in just my sense of self. And, I think...
Interesting.
I think just like being taken from one environment to another will already do that to you. And then already being a preteen and, having all these changes happening to you, it all kind of coalesced to where I was like, oh, like, I don't feel like I have any control over my image. So I would just be at home. I think it's like how people would turn to like Tumblr. Or they'd turn to like, various things. I think I was just like getting this random fairy tale book and these magazines and being in the back of my like in like a room and just like thinking about these things. And sometimes I play music, and I think that's why now a lot of other art forms tie into how I style and how I think a lot of stylists would say that, and a lot of artists in general I think have a lot of this cross-pollination, where so many sorts of yourselves and past selves intersect to where you can actually see the thorough line of, oh, that's where that kind of added to this part, you know? And that's where I do think there are parts of even like wanting to like help people, and that feeling within when I style and wanting someone to feel good about the image and wanting people to feel good about the way they look in those pieces. Like there is something that I think it might not be a direct correlation of like, I'm not saving lives, but there's just something moving there emotionally for me of being like, wow, like I feel good about this. Do you feel good about this? Like we're making worlds, we're creating worlds with these, you know, pieces, especially on a shoot where everyone is bringing their ideas, you know. That part to me has been really cool. And that was the missing link for when I was a kid, where I felt very isolated and I didn't feel like I didn't even understand what it was. Like I didn't know shit about stylings. I couldn't even tell you what a stylist was. Like I kind of knew what a personal stylist was because of my mom, but yeah, it felt different because I wasn't trying to do that. I was trying to do something else. And yeah.
So what was, well, there's so many interesting things you just said, because I'm thinking, well, first, you were born in
LA.
In
so
LA.
I was born in Northridge, Valley Girl.
Lived here till
I was 12.
Till you were 12, and then you moved to
Lagos, Nigeria for 4 years, and then moved back. Yeah.
And it was after you were coming back that you felt this sense of self and this desire
I think it was like during the time I was in Nigeria. I would say that 12 period was where it first emerged, and like more latently, because like I truly started styling when I was 24. I want to say 24, because it's been 5 years, and I'm 29, turning 30 this year. And yeah, it's just funny like thinking of like, because in general, like when do people start thinking of like, I want to be this, you know, like we're always kind of told like, oh, I want to do this when I grow up, and that thing isn't static, you know. Like I've wanted to do so many things, and some of them I've gone and actually dug a little into, you know, and then this is actually what I decided to go and do, but I've never thought of it in an active like, oh, is this one? So it's cool to kind of actually go down memory lane and think about like, oh yeah, when would that have first kind of nugget of a desire come up?
Well, I also find it so interesting because like I think about me growing up, and I grew up with like Ethiopian immigrant parents, and I just think I feel like the crux of my maybe insecurities with being like a young Black girl were really in those preteen years. And so to think that you went to Nigeria right at that moment, which I don't know what you were feeling at that point, but it's like, I just feel like, wow, I really wonder what that would have done to my self-confidence. I wonder if that would have helped me a lot.
Girl,
seeing people who look like me.
I think it's interesting that you say that too, because were you experiencing it in like, you were made to feel not confident because people were telling you?
No.
Okay, I was just curious, like what for you, or was it that you just started to have experiences around growing older and realizing you look different than maybe other people?
I think it was more like, I mean, to be honest, I feel like it was always something I downloaded even from being a conscious child, just like programming of like, oh, Britney Spears, beautiful. Baby Spice, beautiful. Me, I don't look like them. My Barbie dolls.
Yeah.
I want the blonde one. You know, it was just like, that's the Barbie. Like, why wouldn't I want Barbie?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
So it's just like, I always saw that programming.
Yeah.
Let that motorcycle go. But I think in middle school is when, I think maybe when everyone started, you know, you start wanting to dress up, you start becoming conscious of how you are perceived. You know, you're not just a kid wearing a t-shirt.
Yeah, that's like, literally it. I feel like I started to have that. Well, I was turned 12, and then I want to say like I turned 12 in August, and then we moved to Nigeria January for like following. I want to say it was like December, the end of December. I feel like I remember having the holidays there and being like, okay. And when we were growing up, we traveled a lot, and we would go to Nigeria a lot, and it was always seen as a vacation to me. So it almost felt like going on vacation. I think I kept telling myself, it's vacation, like as a way to probably process it, you know? I think I really needed to probably think it was an exciting thing. But before moving, I definitely had those moments. Honestly, this is going to sound so just like, wow, like, of course, like, baby Chris was feeling this way, but and a lot of, I think, young girls feel like this. But I think the first time I started to notice how I was being perceived as far as the way I looked, felt when I wanted to be desired. When I wanted to be desired, I was like getting crushes and being like, oh, the people they were hearing that they like they don't look like me. And I think that's when I kind of started to like look at myself, because I think it's so sad, but it's like this disconnect I think I would have with how I saw myself in my mind, which was confident, and then how I physically felt by my imperfections as a young teen and a young preteen, of like, oh, you have sits. And I remember watching, because we were in uniform school. This is in actually LA. This is in LA. Okay, all these. Yeah, okay. I went to this private school, Village Christian Schools, and I just remember we had uniforms, and, you know, some of the girls would like do little things to it. And I still tried, but I wouldn't say, I didn't have makeup then. I didn't have any of those desires yet. And I remember it was during like picture day where everyone was fussing, and I remember being like, why do you care so much? Like, you're gonna be fine, you're gonna look cute, like, don't worry about it. And then getting my photo and being like, you look hideous. Like, what the fuck? Maybe you too should have been pruning. Like, maybe you shouldn't have worn the gray polo of like the 3 colored polos they let you wear, and feeling so not like what I saw myself in my mind, and feeling like, wow, like, why does my hair not fall a certain way? And like, why does my nose look like that? And like, blah, 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 blah. And feeling like I couldn't change how I was physically being perceived. So it was starting to affect internally how I was being perceived. And so I thought when I moved to Nigeria, like, oh, well, they have to desire me here. Like, it was like, it's like a new, you know, like a new chance. And, you know, I probably had a version of that there too, because eventually it wasn't vacation. Like, I was just living there, and I was still an awkward teenager. And, you know, when you're first the new girl, I feel like I remember being so excited because I was this new thing, and like people were like, oh, this and that, but I never felt cute. Like, I never felt like the cute girls that I was seeing that were, you know, dressing up and doing all these things with their uniform, like their moms, you know, I don't know if their moms
in Nigeria
now. Okay. And they were like, you know, able to alter their clothes, and my mom was like even though she was a fashion person, she was so adamant on, one, trying to control what I wore, but 2, not letting me care about she was like, you need to go to school and you need to focus on this. And it's actually really interesting to me, because I think, I mean, I don't know, she probably didn't think about it as far as like me wanting to like look a certain way to my peers. I think she was just being a mom, but like, it is just funny that like she cares so much about fashion, and also like she dresses these like women for a living, but she was so like anti like me being focused on that, and wanting me to be more excuse me more focused on like school. But it's like, babes, like, you could have helped me see that I was an artist, and you could have been a part of that. Like, you could have been a part of like helping me craft it in a way that didn't make me look down on this thing. Because even it felt like a lot of how she felt about what she did, I think, because she apparently had wanted to be a nurse at one point and didn't end up getting the schooling to do it, and decided to pivot. But yeah, I think there's just so much tied into it. I definitely wouldn't say that, I don't know, I just think about what would have been like if my mom was that mom who was like, oh my god, like, let's send you to an art school, or like, let's put you in these like things. She was more just like, okay, you want to be a doctor, like, I'll send you to the pre-college, or you'll take this internship. And I think it's just really because she did want me to do something that was more secure. But when I think about how I engage with my work now, it's actually it's a way of being, like, for me. Like, the work I do is fulfilling on a level that, even though doctors are incredible, this has nothing to do with what doctors do. I don't think, for me, if I was to have pursued that path, I would feel the level of freedom I feel now. I don't feel like it would have been fulfilling for me for what I want to bring to the world, not because of the work. The work itself is valuable, and, you know, whatever it is anyone chooses to do is valuable, but I want to move through the world in a really intentional way. And I basically decided to do it all on my own. Like, I was like, I'm going to pursue this. No connections, no one helping me, just, committing to it, and I'd share with them. And they were definitely just like, oh, like, okay, like, that's sad, but same, immigrant parent mentality of like,
I mean, that seems pretty chill. It's a pretty chill reaction.
This was now like, I was now 20. When I first left school, I was 21. Okay. And I'm an adult at that point. Like, I'm paying for everything. Like, I'm doing... At that point, they kind of had to just accept it because I truly was on my own, doing my own thing. But I think the younger selves of them, when I was under their roof, would not have been comfortable with that. I think that would have been a very different conversation. But yeah, no, I think when I just decided to pursue it on my own, it became like, they weren't like, we're rooting for you. It was never like of course they loved me. There was not like they were actively like, you know, shunning me. It was just more of like they very clearly didn't approve and were just like, well, you would have more security as a doctor. And they're not wrong. Like, babes are not wrong. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, the artist life, it's a specific one. Like, you have to commit to it in a very insecure way where, you know, it's not, I'm not, you know, I don't have like it feels like there is no backup plan for me in this choosing. It feels like I either commit to it or I, you know, pivot, you know?
But, you know, that's, I mean, I think all of that is so beautiful. And the way you describe that, like what you're doing, it's not just a career, it's a way of being. It's really a way of being. And I almost feel like, because I feel very similar in ways where I wasn't really nurtured as an artist growing up. And I look back and I sometimes feel like, well, what if I could have, but that's not the path that I was supposed to go on. It was supposed to happen through my 20s. And now I feel like such a sense of ownership over it. Yeah. Which I feel like is similar to you, where you're able to claim it's yours. It's totally yours. 100%. You found it. You pointed towards it. You created everything for yourself for it. And although it would have been nice if someone could open the door, it's like when you have that authority over it, it's something different.
It does feel like a sort of what's the word? Like a sort of guiding force, because for me it's like, if you are the catalyst. Like, you are the one that is ushering in the thing it is that you're trying to produce. You know, like, no one is the thing behind, no one is the engine, like, you are that, you know. And I think there has been something really powerful. And eventually, actually, my parents did come around, and now they are at the point where they're always saying how proud they are of me. And I do think that's just more also the jokes of like, you know, like the immigrant kid that's like, yeah, when there's money involved, you're real excited. But I do think there is a pride now that they see with me pursuing it and knowing that I did do it by myself. I mean, there were people along the way who helped me. That I don't mean by myself like in support, but you know, in just like in like the focus of me creating the trajectory and being so specific. Because honestly, this is something I talk about a lot with my other like art friends, where we're just like, there is no map. Like, there's guidelines. Like, they're just like, well, these are the general things that you can do that have been tested, and like, try that and see what works. But there isn't this set map of like, okay, you get this check or you get this, and if when you decide you no longer want to do this, or you feel like this might be a better path, everyone just is doing it live. And there is something so like honestly exciting about that. I do love that part about being a creative, is like every day feels like a new adventure. And that is just a way I realized when I eventually had to make my own money and like was thinking about like what it is that I wanted to do long term. I was like, I don't want to feel restricted as a being, as a human, like, because for me, how I think of fashion is just purely like, it's a modality. I could be doing something else, you know, and that's my hope too, is like, for me, fashion isn't like the end all be all. It's definitely something that I use as like a tool or language, you know, to express some of the things I'm trying to say right now. And maybe there'll be a new iteration of that in the future. Like, I think there's something so beautiful to see people take, you know, different modes. I mean, look at Tom Ford. He like literally created an empire, this archive of incredible design, and then he went into film, you know, and he's just like
impeccable
doing this too. And has always had that, you know, that's it's always been that person, you know, like everything you do follows you, you know, like you are a part. And that's why I meant about the interests I had as a kid, probably in wanting to be a doctor and psychology and even writing. All of these things I think do shape how I view what I do. Like, and that's actually to me some of my favorite stylists and some of my favorite like artists and thinkers. they're never just doing one thing.
Right.
Like they're using everything they do and they're sort of weaving these influences into the thing that maybe you might see them create in that moment. But a lot of them I always see, like, it's very, very commonplace to hear like people who are like a stylist one day, that now they're like, you know, art directing, and maybe now they're, you know, creating a workshop on this, or like, to me that makes so much sense, you know, or they're like collaborating with the theater on this, you know, experience. And sometimes it might not even have anything to do with fashion. Like sometimes it's just like they started in this world and now they're doing this other thing. And I think there's something so special to that, because it's showing people, to me, we're weaving worlds, we're dream weaving. I love saying that word, dream weaving, where we are really showing people like, you don't have to have fixed ways of being. Like you can be flexible and being able to lean into this thing, knowing that there is no guideline, is really just like, you kind of are making it, you know, you're drawing it and you're weaving it into existence. And that makes it more comfortable, I feel like, to do something else, because you're just like, well, I did this other thing. Like why couldn't I be able to do this other thing? You know, you're just more open about it, you know?
Okay, so I think, again, it comes back to you saying, like, feels like a way of being. And I really hope I'm able to convey what I want to say right now.
No, please.
But, like, not it leaving my brain. It's, like, you know, for example, when I look at myself when I'm writing, or let's say, okay, whatever. You want to be an artist, but you don't know what you want to do. You're like, I want to be an artist, but I'm not sure what my lane is, so I'm going to try acting. And so, you know, I tried acting and I was like, that's not quite right. And then I found writing and I was like, this feels amazing. It feels like the world is running through me. I feel like I'm like being wrung out. I feel amazing. And that's like my relationship with writing. But I notice in everything else that I do, when I feel that same way that I feel like when I'm writing, I know something good is happening. It's like that same process that happens, like kind of like the divine process that happens through like my one form that feels the most true to me.
Yeah.
I can then apply to acting. I can then apply to styling.
Exactly.
I can apply to walking on the street. So
just being.
I'm curious with you and the way, because even with your styling, it's very, I see stories, you know, it feels like storytelling. And you talking about, it was fantasy books. I was like, there is an element of fantasy with your work, and like this kind of a character-esque nature to the pieces you select. And I just wonder, like, what is running through you when you are selecting pieces, or you're doing your work? Like, what does it feel like?
Well, first, thank you for saying that, because that does feel like where my mind goes. And it's nice to see that it's being, you know, seen in that way. I mean, for me, not all stylists do that, but I do think a lot of stylists I've met anyway do come from this sense of, what is the creative and what is it that I'm trying to say? What is it that I'm trying to show visually through these clothes? And because I already love cinema, I grew up watching like film from like very, very young age, and then reading very early. And so being able to transport yourself, I'm a very imaginative person. Like I can literally go from zero to Daydream in like a second, because I'm just like, yeah, like transport, take me there. Like I'm there with you now. I remember being in the car and like being a kid and seeing like a glitter out the window. I'm like, maybe there's a mermaid on the freeway, and like I don't know what she'd be doing here, but only I can see her. And like in my own world, like definitely had like imaginary friends. Like I am that person, and they all are wearing costumes and they're all in this fantasy. And like that to me is what it is it's like, how do I shape fantasy? How do I tell a story? That to me is what storytelling and dream weaving is like being able to imagine a world, you know, imagine yourself in a world, and how you want to feel in that world. And that world is sometimes reality, and that reality is, you know, me or the people or the shoots I'm being a part of, you know, or the things I'm being asked to do. And so that's where I start, is like I try to start from conceiving like what the actual
like a
world
daydream
is. Literally like a daydream. Yeah, I feel like that's how I kind of move through. That's why it's a lot of it is moved for me by music and color, and like looking at film and like certain scenes and the way they evoke, like literally certain techniques evoke a certain sense of emotion. And then when you look at the costume design, oftentimes that there's a synthesis that's happening, you know, where you're just like, I can remember what she felt like in this dream state because this dress was translucent and they used a very specific kind of bead, and that allowed the light to sort of glimmer in a certain way, you know. And there's something to me so beautiful thinking about being able to like help the dreamers, you know, and like be a like help create worlds for people to feel comfortable to dream in. And that's why honestly I think artists, and I don't mean that as like a me thing specifically, but I think artists in general, there is actually such an importance on what artists bring to just creating futures. Like people really don't appreciate how much goes into just being able to be that raw and open and vulnerable with something you are bringing out from yourself into the world. Like that can even be applied to the sciences, the writers.
Thank you.
Like there are so many people can take that and actually think about how they want to approach, you know, I don't know, medicine and like how their things are evolving in the medical field. Like there's actually, and which is why actually a lot of doctors, even in their downtime, will go and do things that are completely outside of what they do. Like it's because it allows them to come back into their practice in a way that is just more open, you know, even though that world is supposed to be more data and rigid, there is a sense of like, I don't know if you're one of those doctors who will play like classical music in like the surgery rooms where they're just like, it allows their mind to wander. And like that was an artist who made those sounds for you to be able to take that in and be moved by it. Like that is all part of the dream weaving, you know? And I think being able to like have a part in that, I just feel so lucky, honestly. I feel lucky to have been able to find something that makes me feel the way it does, even when there was a time I thought, oh, I wanted to do this other thing, you know? So yeah.
Oh, you're so, oh my God.
But how about you?
Genius
like,
for
writing?
that.
Girl, like
Jesus.
I truly think for me it's intuition. It's less thought. I mean, I'm not going to pretend that like with my actual work there isn't that. Like there definitely is a lot of technical elements, and that's like a different episode. But like I think as far as like coming into how I like first approach styling, I would say from the very like removing the technical and logistics out of it, I think that is really where I come from first, is from a very intuitive space. And so I do try to even approach that when it comes to like the words I want to say, like the words I write, like later when I'm like, okay, this can actually be tied into something I want to say about this, like actually physically writing, like what does that look like? How can I bring that into the fold, you know? And yeah, I think it's just interesting because it's never mutually exclusive. Like it does feel like so much of it is intertwined.
So speaking of like writing and stories, I want to go back to kind of how you did get into fashion. You worked as an editor, right?
That was actually way like more recent. I would say I first started in retail, like purely retail. Retail girl. I'm like,
where were you working retail?
I was working at Cause downtown. Yeah, that was a time. That was so I graduated from school, like I was still 21. I think I turned 22 the summer, like, so I graduated spring, moved back to LA in the summer. What did you study? Global studies and a minor in comparative literature.
And you knew you wanted to go into fashion when you were in school? Or was
absolutely it after? No, I was actually at the time I eventually realized, okay, I didn't want to be a doctor. I didn't actually decide to study it. I was like, I don't know what I want to do. What can I discover with this major? I remember taking like a quiz, like on a random, like I wasn't that lost at that point where I was like, what does this call? I knew I had to go to college because my parents weren't having that. They were like, you're going to college. Like, what are you going to do? I'm like, no fair. Like, I had no plan. So I'm like, all right, like very privileged, like really was still in a very like underdeveloped time in my life, which, you know, that is a privilege to say, like,
didn't you go to
be
Penn
able to go.
State?
I went to Penn State. Yeah, girl. I went to Penn State, random as hell, like for where I came from, like here and then Nigeria, like very random. I mean, a lot of Nigerians do go there, but it was more like business and like even sciences and stuff, you know.
So you lived in Nigeria until
I was almost 16. So I was 15. Moved back to LA, but to the Valley.
Back to the Valley.
Yeah.
Okay. And then
I went to school. Yeah. So I was here for 2 more years, like finished up high school basically. And yeah, went to Penn State. Really had no real reason. It was just like, sure, like got into the school, why not? And decided to study this major. And I eventually realized I wanted to do, I wanted to work with refugees. That was something really important to me. I at one point wanted to drop out and join the Peace Corps, and learned like you can't join the Peace Corps until you're a graduate. And then I was like, okay. And also realized like they have like a exception where you can't work with refugees. It's a whole, once again, so much shit is political that you're just like, even delving into it, you're just like, why? But very much realized, okay, maybe this isn't the world for me. Like I kind of left school and wasn't getting a job. Like I didn't have enough qualifications, didn't want to go back to school and get a master's. I honestly was so tired of school at the point. So I was like, I got a customer service job. Like I just was like, sure, I need a job to like pay for things. I'm an adult. Like this is it. Like I have to start taking care of myself. And was just so, I just remember being so bored to the point I was starting to become apathetic about my life and what I was trying to do and who I wanted to be. And I remember it was just like, yeah, you go to work, you do this minimum wage job. Felt very lost, like very, very lost. And I was 22, like approaching 23, hadn't turned 23 yet. And my sister was staying with me for the summer. She was, you know, like seeing me go to school and come back, or not go to school, go to work and come back. And she was still in school. She had just started, I want to say that was the year she had started school, or maybe like a year in, something like that. And she was just telling me about her desires to be a model and all these things. And I was so negative. Like I remember her just being like, you're so negative. Like you sound like our parents. Like she just, and that was like the biggest insult you could say to me at the time. I was like, what do you mean? Like, why do I sound like them? She's like, it feels like you've forgotten how to dream. Like you've forgotten how to like you've forgotten. Like, and I was like, oh my God, I had been numbing myself because I didn't feel like there was anything that I was seeking. And I also was a very creative person and had no outlet. And really that summer was so life-changing for me because my sister and I just started to like she would shoot, she was like had a camera and she would take photos a lot, and she was in that, she's 4 years younger than me, so she has that age where she was like, you know, just like on YouTube a lot and like had that whole world. And I was so envious of her, honestly. I think there was a part of me that really wanted to be able to put myself out there and like try things and challenge myself. Even if I felt some of what she was doing was silly, I really admired her for like learning how to do it. And that's actually how she first learned how to edit. And that was her very early days of filmmaking that I later am like, that is so incredible that was something that for you was such an important time that she now looks back on as well. We'll talk about it a lot, but she really helped me remember that like I am a dreamer. Like that is a part of myself. So you don't have to always have the concrete dream there to know that you can dream. Like that is something that is so important, and being able to reclaim that summer made me realize I was like, I'm just gonna save and move. Like I was like, I don't know what it is I want to do. I don't know fully yet how to form the words. I had kind of started to like look into fashion just because I think I saw like a tweet. I think it was something like random, right? Very millennial. And I was like, what is the thing that you like to do when no one's watching or like no one's forcing you to do? And I just like kept thinking that like question kept gnawing at me. Like, what is it that you're seeing? It was like, do that. And I was like, okay, like, sure. Let me think about it a little bit. And like, the more I realized, I was just like, just started to notice, I was just being more observant, more introspective. And I would just notice, like, I spent so much time on, like, curating a fit. Like, it was always just, like, I want to, and it reminded me I've been doing this since I was a kid. I'm like, yeah, you would just, like, get outfits for hours. So just, like, in my room, just, like, la, 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 like, I'm not going nowhere. Like, I was just, like, this is what I would wear if I was in this experience. And I was like, wow, you get so much, like, joy from this. Like, what is that? I was just like, let me just dabble. Like, let me just do a little look. And when I first came, like I knew it wasn't design because honestly, I didn't really want to learn sewing. It's actually like one of my Achilles heels. It's something I still struggle with now where I'm like, I do need to get on that because like I'm a professional stylist. This is crazy. But I also just have really good friends who are alterations and I'm like, you are like my people. But like more so just I knew I didn't want to really get into the world of like design. I think there was nothing really that had moved me at the time for that. But I did want to explore something in fashion. And when I first found the term fashion stylist, something in me was kind of like intrigued. And the more I would look into it, I started to get like an anxious feel, like a feeling of like, oh, like this makes you feel. It was for the first time in that past year or two, I had started to feel a sort of nagging. And I think that was the sense of dreaming coming back in, where I was like, you're afraid of this. Like, you're like, there's something, not only is it bringing something out in you, you're actually a little bit afraid. And that means that there's something there. Like, there is something that your body is seeking, that you are seeking, and you need to try to explore that and not let fear, you know, stop that. And that was kind of when I just started to do the research, and I'm like, okay, I don't know how to do this thing, but I'm just going to start calling myself a stylist. I was like, the first step is acknowledging what you want it is to do, and now you just have to work your way backwards. I'm like, all right, let's fuck it. I would do silly shoots with my sister. Like, literally, I'm not a model, babe. Like, in any way do I feel like a model. I would literally just be putting like random clothes, like clothes that just made me think, like, not even anything. It's just cute to think about things that you did at one point where you're like, wow, like, I don't even know what it was I was trying to say, but I was trying to say something, and that means something to me. Like, I like look back at those shoots. I still keep those photos in my phone just to like remember the nexus of where it all began, just being like, wow, like that was it. Like, you just were able, because it was a sense of carefreeness with my sister. Like, we were just
gorgeous.
Like, first apartment as an adult, I was renting on my own with my money.
This is LA?
This is LA.
Yeah.
I was 22, like still 22 at this point. And, you know, she was just helping me. And I was still working this customer service job. I hadn't even moved into retail yet.
Yeah,
but then when I moved to retail, it was like before I turned 23, and I got to sublet my like cousin's friend's apartment, like something random like that. I was like subletting, and barely had enough money to pay for rent. Was like working 2 jobs. I got to work at this really cute small boutique. It's like a French boutique called 13 Bonaparte, and it was in Row. And I felt so adult and so like honestly intimidated. Like, I was very like, I don't fully feel like I fit in here, because some of the people there were kids like who were like younger than me, like maybe like 2-3 years, and were going to the fashion school. You know, they're very fashion head, and I was like, I love fashion clearly, but it felt like I was having to learn it all in real time, because I grew up around it and I felt grateful for that, but it wasn't like I was going to school to learn these terms. Like, for the first time, it was like, I'm not the student anymore, you know, I'm actually the person who's practicing, and like I felt like an intern unofficially, but I was sort of in that in-between age where I wasn't young going to fashion school, but I also hadn't been doing this for years and years, and I didn't have all this experience, and I felt very intimidated by like the stories I was reading of stylists who had like been doing this for 15 years, you know, and like we're at this level that I was like, I can only dream to get there. Like, how do I get there? And every time I would start to feel that doubt creep in, I was like, this is a lifelong journey. Like this, like, why do you feel like you need to get to someone who's been doing this for 15 years overnight? Like, you have to feel a sense of confidence in yourself and knowing that you can still have something to learn, and this is still for you. It's an art form. Like, it's not just work. It still is something I actually struggle with balancing day to day. And it's a practice. It's something I have to do a lot, because I feel like when I became a stylist professionally, and that was really within the past 3-ish years that I've been freelance fully, although I've been like assisting and working in the field for the past 5+ years, I've really only in the past 3 years actually been doing it as a like income, not with no retail, like no additional job, just in this field. And that's been a big thing, having to balance working and knowing that this is something that is so meaningful to me as an artist, and it's helped me grow. And so I often have to remind myself, you can't lose sight of both of that. You know, it's like, if you're going to choose to do this as a career, you chose to get in this because it helped you feel free, you know, and that if that starts to change, then you have to renegotiate your relationship with this, you know, because for me, it is so important. Otherwise, I would have just been a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer, which once again, all of those fields are valid. But I felt at the time, because no manual, you're just doing it live.
Yeah.
I just felt like I would try to see myself, you know, 10, 15 years down the line. I was just like, I don't think I would be happy. And like the amount of work that would go into those, to even doing that. Not that doing this is easy, and it's different, of course, but I really wanted to think of what it would take to commit to this, knowing that I wanted to feel a certain way along the way. And that's what has been able to teach me, is that it's not a static feeling. It's like every day I have to go into it being like, how do you feel about yourself and what you feel in this work and in the work that you're making, you know? It's like, I don't want to just be doing something for the sake of doing it. Like, I really want to move through it from the intentionality of being an artist, you know? That's how I really perceive what it is that I do. I see it less as just a job, but actually as, a way of moving through the world, you know?
Well, for you, like, at this point, I mean, you even having those conversations with yourself at the beginning of it is so wise. Like, I don't know, I think all of it is so cheeky and so wise. I don't know, it almost feels like that. Listening Thank to a I feel like I wish I could watch like a movie of it. Like, you seem like such a fun character to watch. But I do wonder, you know, when that thing that makes you feel so free, it becomes your job, which is such a lucky feeling. But I mean, what to you is like the ideal marriage, you know? Like, what would be your ideal North Star or ideal job, or like what makes you feel like this is worth money but also worth something inside of me?
Honestly, that's so interesting you said that, because honestly, one of the jobs we did too, like one of the projects jobs, I said it in like such an official way, but formal way. One of the projects we did together felt like that, because I remember saying that to my partner. I went home when you first asked me about it. I was at home and I was like, oh my God, like someone asked me about wanting to do something from my friends. And it wasn't just like it didn't feel like, I mean, because oftentimes I do have to do projects that I don't care about. Like, I'm not going to pretend I don't. Like, it is like, sometimes not every day is going to be like the most fulfilling thing in the world. Like, that to me is just the reality of being a person, right? In the world and moving through the world. But when I have a project that is presented to me that actually feels personal and feels like, wow, like this person values what I have to say and wants me to be included, there's something so validating as an artist about that, because it really does feel like, wow, like someone is seeing what it is that I am like offering, you know? It feels like an offering in a sense, and it feels like really validating to have what you're offering to the world be taken, you know, and being seen as meaningful. And so that was a really fun project, because we were just creating, like, you know, you, me, and Emery, and it really felt, and Alex, and everyone just having their own just beauty and like tact and grace, and just the way in which everyone was bringing in their like artistic like presence to it. And it was just like, like it really did just make me feel so fulfilled, and just being there with you all in that night and in that moment. I was like, this is so meaningful to me. And that was a really special project. Like, that really just made me feel, and I honestly, it was exciting because it didn't feel like forced. It felt like, oh, like let's just do this thing, and like that's fun. And like so many of the people I look up to, you know, even now in like styling and other, you know, jobs, it's really like so exciting to learn about how they kind of got into it, because so many of them, it's so nice to see that so many of them are also doing things that I'm like, you started just being creative. You started finding people who were, you know, engaged with what you had to say, and you were seeking them, and you were just, you know, trying to be part of that cosmic energy that exists, you know. And that feels so like beautiful to me when those moments happen, because it doesn't feel like, oh yeah, like, hey, we're seeking, you know, you for a job. It's like, I need that too, and I get that I need to make money, and that's important for me to succeed. But if I lose who I am in that process, what is the, excuse my French, but what is the fucking point? You know, like, so that's where I feel that was a really like memorable moment for me with work. And also just, I also had a short film that I had like, I guess styled is the best, because I would say costume design, but I mean, I was creating costumes, but it wasn't like from scratch. It was more just creating costume for the characters. And usually that is what they refer to that role when it's with film. But it's interesting because I really used to think, I was like, oh, would I want to go into costume design like formally? Like, is that something, because I love film, like what is it something I would really want to do? And honestly, I've had a kind of mixed experience with it, just because I realized like the worlds are very different, and costume designers are forms of stylists, and stylists can costume design, but they're not the same. Like they're actually like very different. The world is very different. But being asked to do this was from a friend of mine I'd met on a different set when I was styling a music video. And that was actually one of the first music videos I was lead styling. And it was a great opportunity because, you know, she was an incredible artist. And just being like, she's a Black woman, Layla Hathaway. She's like, it was just really cool, like just seeing someone who's so like legendary and has such an impeccable, like, you know, voice, and her team, and just being able to work with them. But then meeting this person who was doing the BTS for it, and she's a filmmaker and actress as well, and she came to me with this short film that she had been working on. She's like, hey, I'd love to be involved. And like, she's a Black woman, I'm Black, like it just felt so, and the projects were very different, like very different than what you and I did, but that's what made me feel so great. Is like at the time I was also having to work a lot for like higher paying jobs. It wasn't about the money. Like it was about, this is something I want to be a part of, you know, like I was, you know, grateful to just like have the space to be able to do various things, because that is important to me. You know, it's like, I want to be balancing what my heart is being called, you know, to be a part of, with what I might need to be a part of as well, to be able to continue to do these heart, you know, filling projects. And I think that is sort of my motivation, is just being able to move as freely through these worlds and being able to navigate it in a way that makes sense for me and, you know, my life. And so it's definitely a, you know, a practice. It's something I really do have to actively do. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and say it's like super like, yeah, it's like everything's like, no, like I do, like I feel like I'm equally whimsical about it as I am methodical. Yeah, I do feel like it does feel like a balancing of, I guess, my different selves, of like knowing that I am very like logical and precise, and I have to be strategic, I feel like, in order to achieve the things I want. But I also feel like I can't sacrifice the part of myself that just wants to be, you know, and allowing both selves to sort of have a relationship with one another.
Well, it's also like that free artist expressive, you know, self, it needs to be protected. Like, it needs a protector. It needs someone to get to give it food and money and whatever. It's like they do have to be in play with one another. But at the end of the day, it's like, I think that's, to me, like I lean more into like, that is why I feel like we're here on earth, to like feel that thing. But you know, you need structure around it. You need to build something around it. But I will, going back to us working on our project together, that makes me feel so happy you said that, because I was so scared to ask you.
Really? Oh my God, because you never told me that.
You're incredible. And I was like,
stop.
I don't want to ask. I mean, it feels just so.
But like all of us, I feel like, are doing, and that's what I love about like really meeting you guys. I remember we talked about how we met through my sister's friends, who have since become my friends, and you guys are a part of that. But it was just so nice, because when I met them, and they are like doing all these creative things, and everyone's just like being themselves, and you know, just like it felt so like there was just this kinetic energy that I was just like meeting you guys. And when we met, it was like, oh yeah, it was like we were just all hanging out like Fred 16, and I was like, this is like a really great conversation, and like we need to have more of this. And yeah, I felt grateful to be a part of it. I wanted it to feel
the best nights ever.
Yeah, it was just like everyone is operating at this really just higher level of just wanting to bring a really strong, like that's also what made me happy about it, is it wasn't just like play in the sense of it's not serious. It did feel like serious, but we were all being playful about how we were doing it. You know, that to me is what makes it fun, because like I feel like ironic for saying this, because earlier in the conversation I was talking about being a doctor, but we're not saving lives, babe. Like, we are like saving our lives. To be honest, like I'm saving my life by being true to myself and knowing that I don't want to like 20 years from now being like, who am I? And like, sure, I'll have a different crisis of conscience, but like I want to feel like I can at least say, wow, I didn't waste my years doing something I didn't want to do. Like life and time is so precious. Like I don't, like, it feels like a betrayal in a way if I'm not being true to myself, you know? I'm like, yeah, I just don't want to have any part in that.
No, I feel that. And like, it was that moment of us working together was really crazy, even before we actually shot, because when I sent you the mood board and I sent you kind of the idea, which I guess to catch everyone up who doesn't know what happened, there's a project I haven't released yet, but I wanted to creative direct it and I wanted to kind of star in it. And I had one of my really great friends be like the film, like cinematographer and like visual art director, and a friend did my hair, and then Chris styled it. And the shoot was very personal, and like the images that I chose for the mood board, it was all very, I don't know, all of it's very personal because it's very tied into themes in my writing. And I remember sending it to you and I was like, I don't know if anyone's gonna get this. Like, I get it. Like so used to people not understanding what I say sometimes, and I'm like,
I feel that oftentimes too. I get that feeling as well. So it was like nice to already have you think of me in that way, and also just being like, no, like you actually are coming from such like just an intentional, almost experimental space. I feel like you are in this really, actually today I said I was gonna remember the name of the song for this so that I could like tell you about it, and now I feel silly because I forgot the name of the song.
Oh, we gotta find out what the song
I want to say it's called like Belly by like Baby. Oh no, I'm ruining it. There's a name for it and I remember it, but the cover of it was this pink that immediately made me think of you, and I was like, maybe we should call this Haletta Pink, because like now I associate that color with you. And yeah, like I think you'd like the song. I definitely have to send it to you. We gotta play it later. But yeah, it's just like funny when someone who does feel so like much like you embody what it is that you're trying to say. When I read your writing and when I see the way that you express yourself, I'm like, no, I'm there with you. Like I'm in it because it feels so true. Like it feels so guided, and like there is definitely a sort of damn, I lost all the words I'm looking for, but there is a line, like a thorough line for what it is that you're trying to say. And when I read it and when I first saw the board, I was like, no, I want to be a part of that. Like let's find a way to, you know, like make this create. And you never, and then that was great too, is that you weren't like controlling or like feeling like you had to. In fact, I think we didn't even really share like pictures. I think it was just more like, let's show up. We've already been given, you know, the mood, and let's just bring, you know, ourselves to the table. And that felt really fun.
Well, I think truly it's because the way you respond, you got it, and you also contributed to it. Like that was a really wild moment for me, because so much of my writing process is so alone that to then share a piece of it, and then you start showing me your perspective of it, which then shows me a totally different way of viewing the world that I was inhabiting. And now it is not just my world, it's like our world. It was just, that was such a crazy moment.
Dream weaving together. It's the best thing.
I was like, this actually feels even better than doing it alone. Like expressing alone is great. I love it. But the moment when someone understands you and can show you things you didn't see, or they can like connect things. So that's why when I was like, you do whatever, like I want to see where you come, like I want you as a part of it. Like now it's art. It's like not me anymore.
It's like a joint venture. That's what it felt like. Cause like Alex with like the hair that she did, like, she's like truly so incredible and
crazy.
Everything.
It's
and
really crazy.
Emery's just like her vision and just like the colors, and just all of us really, we bodied that.
Yeah, when it comes out, we'll talk about it.
I'm
later,
excited for when that is finally released.
I was just looking through it the other day because I've been thinking about, well, we'll talk about this off camera, but anyways, okay, I kind of want to go into
like fashion magazines. I've been kind of thinking about them a lot. Me and Emery have been talking about them. I'm just curious, like, what do you think is the future of the fashion magazine? Especially like,
girl, that's really been something people have been trying to figure out. I mean, especially in magazines, they're like trying to figure out what the future is for them, but definitely digital. Like,
yeah,
I think even like the zine format has become popular again, which I've always loved. Zines were so fun to do, and I was first introduced to them in college, like for class randomly. I was like, oh, you just collage things. Like, it felt very almost silly to me. But I think when you look at people who've used zines really informally as like a cheap method of just disseminating information and then being really punk about it, you know, there's something so like scrappy and DIY about that that almost is in opposition to traditional magazines, because that is so precise and edited down and specific. And I think in order for the fashion magazine to last, I think they are going to have to evolve to being less static in the way that they present, which is why I think online magazines have become so much more popular, because one, there's less money in printing now, so like people are already moving away from that, but then also like how we share information is just not as analog anymore, you know. So I would say I share a post before I share anything like physical, like, which is just, I mean, whether you feel good or bad about that, it is just the truth, you know. But that to me is really the future. I do love physical, like anything tangible is so nice to me. Like, I do love that, and I still engage with that because I've worked in magazines, and editorial styling is my niche. But I think even editorials have had to really adapt, because the world is not what it once was. And honestly, people say it a lot in like negative ways, because of course the way that they talked about it from like the 90s and 80s, even like, I mean, a lot of famous magazines have been started since the early 20s even. It was a different time, but like a lot of times people like me, the number of people like me in that was very, very low, unless you were working at like an all black magazine, which was also doing really cool work. But in general, I think it's nice to know that there are more people who are able to be involved now. But then also knowing like, okay, this world has evolved before, it has to keep evolving, you know? So that's why for me, I do think it's just going to become more digital. In fact, there's a lot of, there's this one site I love that I've used now for the past, I want to say 7 years, but really on and off, like really randomly. I found it through Twitter, and it's its own social media essentially, but
is it Arena?
Okay. It's like, Arena, that I was like, I used to call r.none, and later like I like felt so dumb. I was like, oh, it's Arena, like, oh, haha. But like literally when I first saw that, it made me feel so, it felt like what apparently people would talk about how Tumblr was, but I myself was not a Tumblr kid. I know it's crazy. Like, I think we talked about this one of the days with you and Alex when you were talking about like your involvements on Tumblr. Because for me, it was like, I didn't have any technical literacy, and I honestly felt very confused by the internet. I was very confused, and I wasn't savvy enough or engaged enough to want to figure it out. But my sister would always tell me, because she was on Tumblr, you know, and she was younger than me, she was like, you were what was being posted on Tumblr.
No key though. I was like,
and I'm like,
you
okay,
embodied that
like,
energy,
I'm so glad. Like, it feels good to at least know, like, okay, I would have enjoyed the time. I think it's just like hilarious that I never got on it. Like, missed MySpace completely. Like, I was living under a rock. My parents were very anti-internet when I was younger, and I was a very goody two-shoes kid pretty much until I went to high school and left Nigeria, and then I kind of was like, oh, I can just like be in person, like, okay. So that was a very different time in Chris's life, but it's just funny because I'm like completely skipped Twitter, or completely skipped Tumblr. Twitter I had like a brief like fling with in college, because I was like, I wasn't famous or popular. Like, I was just, it felt like a diary I could have, and no one knew me. And I was like, I was AKA lactose for a long time. And then
such a Twitter name.
The most hilarious like thing. And then I think I changed it to like, when I got really into like chakras and like crystals, I changed it to like ajna, like something related to the chakras. But it was a really important time for me, because I was like, okay, like, I don't know, just engaging with other people and like experimenting with what was happening online. And I realized like, oh, this is why people are online. Like, there's images here. There's like what I was doing in magazines, cutting things up when I was younger, is what people are doing now online. And then when I learned about Arena was through Twitter, I was like, whoa, like this is even more niche. Like I wasn't talking to anyone. Like I wasn't having conversations, but people were just sharing these blocks, which I later learned about, and channels. And I still use that now. It's actually probably the thing I use more than even Pinterest, because I feel like it's interesting to see and go down these really random data like links.
Do you pay for it?
I don't pay for it. I don't think I knew that there was a paid.
You used it for all these years. You didn't run out of blocks?
No, because I wasn't making a lot of them. I was saving a lot of the images.
Oh, and so that doesn't, okay.
So I've made some blocks, but no, I think the people who are using it like regularly have to pay for it. But no, I would just find a lot of these and then make my own boards on my laptop. And so it's just like cool, because I thought it was just like a free way to engage with the internet with like images and people just sharing these archives. And honestly, the archivists are the future, because they're the ones who are cataloging the past, doing it in real time, and then doing, trying to continue to disseminate what's happening now. So I feel like a lot of people, a lot of art directors, a lot of graphic designers, a lot of creative directors, even stylists are using Arena to just share information, visuals, graphics. And I really like it because it's not tied to how you're perceived on the internet, because no one knows who anyone is on there. Like I don't know who anyone is. Like every once in a while I think I'll see a name and I'll like maybe see it, like I'll go on Instagram and see if they exist, but mostly it's just what it is. It just feels like a library. It feels like a digital library, which is kind of nice. Like I'm like, I'd rather like pull up to the library. Like there is no guest list, and you just can go.
Like revolving like stage with different spotlights on different people. I just feel like all the other social media sites, it's just like, bam, this person, and bam, this thing, and bam, this thought, and like Arena's like
trend and paid ad.
Like a
knock on wood, honestly, because it's been going strong. And even sometimes I would still get their emails for like their newsletters, and I'll just like not delete them because they'll be so like
they're interesting,
abstract. And like sometimes I'm like, I don't know what it is you're talking about, but I want to know more. Like
I want to know who's like behind it.
And that's what's so interesting too, is it feels almost like if the veil is revealed, like will I feel the same way? Like I almost have it's like a latent fascination, because I haven't done enough to ever look into it, because I almost don't want to. Like I almost want to just feel like it has this anonymity that is okay. Like I think so much of what we do today, including what I do, sometimes feels so front facing into where like you have to engage with the person. But earlier in the conversation, I'm like, I rather engage with the art before the artist most times now, because along the way there is going to be something you don't vibe with, and that doesn't have to pollute or cloud what you're getting from the art. Like I don't think the whole thing with Arena is to be about who it is. You're sharing these images, and how this person perceives or interprets them is really up to you. So it's like it doesn't feel like it has to die from like the cool kid syndrome. It's just like you can just be, and that to me is what, when people talk to me about what Tumblr was, that's what I would get from it, of just like, oh, like people are just sharing their thoughts. And then I heard that people were also having these like great relationships online, and I've never really experienced the internet that way, so I think I struggle with those connections. But I do really connect with just being an anonymous person on the internet and no one actually knowing me. I just am able to like share my thoughts in this sort of like nebulous way. It almost feels like where I go to just like, it's like an outlet of a sort of just like, I just get to like emote, and no one like is paying attention, because like no one cares. Like I don't have a following. It's just I'm here doing the things. Literally. Yeah.
It's like meditation on the internet in a
way. It's internet meditation.
Internet meditation.
That's really funny.
Okay, so I want to, I guess, kind of close out with, since we're already like peeking into the internet and like Tumblr and what's the future of Tumblr and magazines, and I'm wondering, like, where do you see, I think a lot of things are going to be changing, obviously with AI, obviously with, I don't know, I think we're at a point where the next,
there's a huge shift.
Like the amount of shifts are going to be massive.
Exponential.
And I'm curious, also with you saying how you do, you write and you want to express yourself in other ways outside of styling, like, what is like the future of Chris? Like,
girl, I am on the journey my damn self. I'm asking myself this every day. And honestly, I really hope that I can lean into that multi-hyphenacy. And I mean, in the past, I would always say stuff about like art directing sorry, not art directing, creative directing. I really love the idea of it. There's something there for me in regard to that. I think there's something of me wanting to be a little bit more in the driver's seat when it comes to like what the actual vision of a shoot comes out to be. And I think that would be really cool to wear that hat and see what I could do as far as kind of merging styling with that, because there are creative directors who do styling and vice versa, but I do feel like typically they are kind of separate roles. But I have met people who have done both, and I don't know, I think that's something I really hope to do, is just find a way to tell a story while still using fashion. Like, I don't want to ever completely give up fashion. I think there's definitely a part of me that feels like I hope it exists until the end of my days, but I would like to be able to move more freely through doing it and accepting other types of work as well, where I still add that to the role I'm doing, but maybe also do this other role. So yeah, I think creative directing is a thing that comes to mind first. I definitely still have an itch to maybe write some, like, I don't ever think of it in a professional way as far as like publishing it and trying to profit. I think of it as more of like, it would be really cool to have an anthology of work that I really like care about, that I could share with people, that the people who follow along with what I do would be interested in just seeing this new creation. And honestly, who comes to mind is Solange, who like, remember when she was doing first started Saint Huron, and like even her, like, I think, was it not like composing, I think she like had a composition like series where she did with like these dancers. She's actually done it for the past couple years. She's like, just all these new iterations of how she creates has been so intriguing to me, because she really has, like, I first learned about her as like, I mean, Beyonce's little sister, singing, acting.
I honestly forget. I don't even see them in the same vein anymore. I like, they're
because
so
they
different
really have evolved. And that's what's so nice, is like seeing how she's been able to do that and move through so many versions of herself, to me has been really inspiring, because I really do love her style too. And the people who like her team, I think they do a really good job. Like together, they clearly have a good connection as far as visually how she like is perceived. And she's always wearing these really interesting designers, and not just interesting because they are designers in luxury, but she really like it does a good job of portraying her as this like worldly, like interesting, magnetic person, enigmatic, maybe less magnetic. I feel like she's a little enigmatic. Like, she kind of has a mystery to her, which I think is kind of nice, and seeing her like in contrast to her sister is like, not very public and not as, but she'll be doing these things that people are following. Like, she does have a cult following. Like, I would say there is a huge Solange base in a different way than Beyonce. And that probably means sacrificing these like stadium level concerts, because that might not be what her interest is. She might be, I think she like performed with what's it called, Disney Music Hall. I missed that. I was so upset. But like, genuinely, like things like that, where I'm
incredible.
Like, she's just constantly, like, with Saint Huron, they just released, I think the past 2 years they've started doing design. Like, they have like design studio and I think objects as well now. Like, that is how, for me, in my future, like, I would love to make a perfume line one day. Like, these are things that I'm like, I've always wanted to do. Like, maybe in my, like, I don't have a specific date anymore, because I do feel a little like, if I give myself a date, sometimes it feels a little, I don't know, it almost feels like I'm forcing myself on the timeline. Like, I do just kind of think of like, these are things I want to do one day. There are so many creative avenues that I want to pursue, that I hope styling will give me the access to do, and that I hope I can incorporate styling still in that without feeling limited by it. I think that's really where I'm at, where I'm like, this could just be an avenue to pursue these other things while still having it, you know, part of my life. And that's to me like the kind of artist I would hope to be, you know, is kind of just being able to evolve. You know, I don't want to feel like I have to just be one thing. Like I want to continue to gain that experience and, you know, to be taken seriously and to have big projects and all that, like, but also knowing that I'm not limited by only doing this thing. You know, I want to be able to create something and to be like, yeah, of course, why wouldn't she make this new thing? You know, like that feels really like attainable to me. Like I think it just takes really it's part of the dream weaving. I'm like, I don't have the map, girl. I'm saying this and I'm willing it into existence in the same way that I willed being a stylist, and it just took time and effort and opportunities and all of it had to align in a way that felt divine, you know. And I think that's okay, you know. It's like I don't have to have a direct answer. Like maybe there are just things I'm open to. I'm always open. I use openness as a way to just continue to get opportunities, because I think if I'm only set on one thing, if I'm rigid, then what if this new thing comes my way and I couldn't even see it because I was so, you know, focused on it being one way. You know, being able to stay open has allowed me to have access to things. So I'm like, I wouldn't even have known I could do that if I wasn't open to it, you know?